I would like to welcome everybody to this live reading of a selection of poems taken in the main from our Ireland Stories website, and in particular from The Birth and Death of Angels, a collection on that site. I wish before beginning the reading to acknowledge and thank the person who not just made Ireland Stories possible, who created it, who was its architect, and who still maintains and sustains it, but who also has made this live in Chicago reading possible, as he is its chief engineer, technician, producer, editor and all, the person who has been for over 20 years now my mentor, coach, advisor, guide, publisher, promoter, champion, friend, Mr. Paul Gent of Gent Technologies. About the poems, I've made a rather sparse selection for this reading, but it is representative, covering a period of about 30 years of writing from my earliest presentable poems to one that is still hot off the presses. While the poems are in the main drawn from the Birth and Death of Angels poetry collection on the Ireland Stories website and follow that sequence, I have been reminded while creating the running order for this reading how they fall into three cycles really: an early cycle of bright origin of the world, of life, of love poems, Edenic in theme and nature, with many references to the garden or orchard, to flowers and fruit, to love and birth, while even Eve and her Adam make an appearance. The second or middle cycle, in short, contains some gloomy love poems, while the final cycle contains many, not so much dark poems as poems of darkness evoking age, regret, grief, dying, perhaps not literally, but a death or a dying of sorts, with many references to a mother figure who, to spare confusion, in my poetry is of course an image of the universe which has given birth to us and to whom we shall inevitably return. The poems are in the main autobiographical. They are also chronological, following my own growth and changing vision throughout my life. Where necessary or appropriate, I will try to elucidate a poem with a few words of commentary. I wish to also signal that I include in this reading poems by favourite authors that have special meaning for me. I see this as part of the autobiographical nature of the reading, and I will also include my own translations of poems in French and Spanish that I have loved, as well as some original compositions in those languages. I have also included, for the sake of variety, but not that alone, a couple of prose pieces. So let us begin with the first poem, which shall also, in a pattern of circular completeness, be the last one I shall read. It is called Le Chercheur d'Or, the seeker or searcher for gold, an evocation no less of the mythical journey of Jason and his Argonauts. I wish I could see the Argo again and hear Jason's voice as he strained above the sacred timber that carried us to our goal. That treasure stored in memory, how we sailed from Thessaly, seeking a land of golden corn beyond the sun-reflecting sea. How well I remember the gilded prow upon the ocean's gilded brow, and the sirens' chant only Orpheus could enchant to keep us to our quest, and all those dreams we loved the best. Following the flight of the daring dove into the harbour at Colchis, we all followed the things we loved. Some led to riches, and some to loneliness. Jason had his journey, and I had mine. He had the light of Aries to guide him, and his art. I had the constellation of the heart. And when I reached the place where the fleece was, I saw a woman with red hair standing at the gates of heaven. I am following Le Chercheur d'Or with my first prose piece, Beausang. This very short piece tells the story of Beausang, a courtier in the court of Louis XIV of France. This Beausang begins a dalliance with the king's mistress of Irish extraction, Marie-Louise O'Murphy, Louison, known as La Belle Morphise, and the subject of a famous painting by the French artist Boucher, which you can seek online if curious, which I hope you are. The aforesaid Beausang, a fictional character, let it be said, is interrupted in his dalliance with the very real Marie-Louise and finds himself in a strange kind of revolution, transported rudely to another world and time. Here it is, Beausang. The moment of my death was the moment of my birth. If that surprises you, imagine how I felt. I had been enjoying some exquisite dalliance with the King's Irish mistress, Louison O'Murphy, my red-haired Murphys. It was not my place to dally with her, but circumstance had favoured opportunity. Lucretius Beausang, you are the keenest courtier, Murphys, flattered me. I flattered myself that I was a connoisseur of her Irish geography. I had her, however, for too short a time when came the fall. Hands tore me from her in the moment of my greatest joy. I struggled, vainly. The axe, I reasoned, comes to all as they placed my head upon the block. Chop. I was divided, but not quite. The same hands, it seemed, that had glued me to my death now rescued me from murky depths, and as I was pulled forth, bloodied but unbowed, bruised but, surprise, surprise, intact, reborn in Ireland, her territory, what irony. Such tears I shed. Don't get me wrong, I was happy in my salvation. I think, however, that I glimpsed then what I now clearly see. Life for me would be recollection of Murphy's. I had lost her, yet I still desired her. Yes, I wish I had her back, even for an instant, even in this distant century, but it cannot be. And what is her country when she is lost to me? I had suffered a revolution. The moment of my birth was the moment of my death. In past lives, I lived in France and Spain and became a professional translator in French and Spanish, translating mainly technical texts. I always dreamed of doing extensive literary translation, and so, unsurprisingly, I dabbled in translating favourite writers and poems in those languages. The next poem is the first translated work I will read today. It is a poem by the French infant Shakespeare, the troubled late 19th century prodigy Arthur Rimbaud. I need to include it here as it is one of the poems I've loved best in my life. It is his Aux Saisons, Aux Châteaux, and I have translated it as O Seasons, O Castles. O seasons, O castles, what soul is faultless? O seasons, O castles, I have made a magic study of happiness there for everybody. O long life to it, and rejoicings each time the French cockerel sings. I shall have nothing to desire, my life in its life entire. Its charm steals body and soul, and dissolves me all. What can my words reply? It makes them flee and fly. O seasons, O castles. The next poem I wish to dedicate to the Irish poet Maurice Scully, who was in a past life of mine both a colleague and a friend. We were one wet autumn day long ago driving through Dublin, and I remarked on how many weeks the street sweepers would remain sweeping together the abundant fallen autumn leaves from the streets. I saw it as an arduous task, but Maurice's face and eyes lit up, and he declared that he would love to spend weeks sweeping up the leaves. This reaction of a true poet inspired this poem, where I make Hermes Trismegistus, the god of writing and magic and the patron of alchemy, the poetical figure who sweeps together the leaves while a song he learned as a child sings in his mind. It's called the Love Song of Hermes T. Heaven holds him, evenings when the autumn leaf falls, rusted star surrendering to glistering darkness, magical flame, evening when the autumn leaf falls, slow, dark, fiery, musical falls. The winter begins to bite as he rakes together the fallen abundance from the trees, in the park making small but precious mountains of gathered leaves, each one a swirling clint in colour and design, gold for the glittering pocket of his golden mind. In his warm voice, the alchemy of a song, she used to make him sing aloft along, treasure for the boy he was, under her heavenly gaze, she who was the love of his days, his moon at night. And now begins that Edenic cycle I spoke of in the introduction, with its references to the orchard, fruit, flowers, birth and love. First poem in this cycle of mainly short poems is called Birth. Birth. Born in the hospital bed, shaking like a womb-exposed infant, he cradles and rocks himself out of pain. Love. He was in love with the slight curly-haired nurse in the striped uniform. Her name was Agnes Lamb, who lifted him from the steaming bath and held him in her arms. Born in her arms he would give birth, so much he loves life. He would open his legs and thrust a girl child out with golden hair and silver dreams. Birth easy as the leafing of birch trees in April. Love, the day is long, the night is held in a million hearts. The sky flashes, the rain thunders, with a voice that aches, but still the belly hungers for birth, and the mouth thirsts for love. This next poem is called simply Golden Apple. There is a path that goes to the orchard, goes back to the earliest of memories, to the time when children played there, when their lives were like flowers and fruit, when a woman's voice, perfumed like flowers, sweet like fruit, called them back home through the dusk, with one name only remaining there, painfully daggered in trees' bark, her name, Eve's, golden, her arms reaching above her head to pull the golden apple down and offer it to Adam, her boyish clown. The next poem is a love song, and it's called Morning Sunlight. Morning sunlight, her golden hair trembles with the breath of the summer wind. Purple crocus, sheets twisted and stained from love-making. The wind shakes the trees, the heart beats in anticipation of a birth. Apple blossom. From the apple blossom there is promise. At night its smell is richer and its promise dearer, especially by moonlight. Her hands are rinsed in that perfume. Her breasts smell like flowers. Her orchard tenderness is dark and fiery as eclipse. The next poem, Magical Fruit, began with a conversation overheard on a train journey through the Irish Midlands. A man and a woman sitting opposite me were engaged in what appeared to me to be a quietly intimate conversation. I caught the tenor of their conversation, but to be honest, I only overheard two words clearly when the woman used the term magical fruit to the man. Or that is what I imagined her to say. In this simple way, a poem was born, and here it is. Magical fruit. She has everything to offer him, magical fruit. Desire never grows cold. She gives him everything her orchard holds. Magical fruit. Desire never grows old. Where leaves and sap enfold, she is his sweetest song. Magical fruit. Desire grows bold. In her branches he embraces all heavens. Magical fruit. Desire untold. The stars, she says, are for him. Magical fruit. His root is in her. Desire is gold. This next poem is called Autumn Birth. Dearest love, the birth of days was slow unfolding from the dark waves of the inglorious past. When I met you, the darkness of time flashed bright, and light did a dance with warm beauty in the heart of the world. There has never been a sweeter song of tender fear and tremulous beginning, not before, not ever. Then and now, you were the golden birth of new time. You were all the world had been creating unknown to me. You were all I could never imagine, the unimagined waiting for me. Green and gold, you entered my life with new life, new light for a new world. The transfigured past stood still, and one autumn evening, one September day, you fell from the tree of heaven like an apple into my hands. If this poetry reading was reduced to just one poem, it would have to be this one entitled We Were There. It is the be-all and end-all, the alpha and the omega of my writing. I wish to dedicate it to Joan Moore, who, if she is not a living manifestation of my soul, well then I wish that she should be. It's called, as I said, We Were There. We were there when the rain of stars announced the birth of days. We were there. We were there when the first light of innumerable dawns sprang to life in lovers' eyes. We were there. We were there when hearts discovered tongues torn with tenderness, and tangled words and tangled sounds made sense of emptiness. We were there. We were there and dreamt our dreams face to face with the first death of sun and the first longing for tomorrows. We were there. We were there where the serpent's kiss envelops the moon and hopes drop dead at the feet of time. We were there. We were there running naked to our first bed, in which the entire cosmos of earth and fire, of air and light melded in one unforgettable moment of comfort and forgiveness. We were there. We were there, born from the stars that cradled us. We were there. We were there and did not regret, not a single moment. In all the time I've known you, even your bitterness has been sweet. Where you are, I want to be. Sheltered star, windswept star, whatever you are, believe me, I was born to be with you. I was born, black wind swirling to black dawn, black fruit falling from black trees, black heart awash with black dreams, till you awakened the light in me and I was born. I was born, the boards creaked and groaned with salt water, the course was set, there was an albatross around my neck to drag me down. I have been drowned, but returned to the dead, never will I, not after you. I was born, ranting, grasping, heaving with birth. I was born to be with you. Sheltered star, windswept star, whatever you are, bright, bright, bright chain around my heart. Tantalizingly, poems were often inspired by seeing people I did not know and would never know. After a time, all that remains is the record of seeing them caught in a poem, however briefly or elliptically, as in this poem, The Orchard, which dates from a visit to Florence in the mid-1980s. The Orchard. She is always the same, mystery. Today she is golden-haired at the edge of the artificial lake, dressed in black like a morning Venus. In Florence she wore earrings, ellipses of light, so sophisticated, she was sacred and profane, totally pure, even when hoar. In the orchard she bore the fragrance of apples, ending paradise with her lips. And the next poem is called The Apple. Her mouth was made to eat fruit. The apple, when she touches it, urges itself open to admit her tongue. She subdues with her lips the skin, tears soft with her teeth the white of flesh, and though the core is hidden, it yields her ingress, and breaks for her, sweet as sin, deep in penetration, though the seed is black within. Deep in penetration, though the seed is black within. And I'm now going to end the Edenic cycle that I spoke about with this next poem called Bird Song. You spread your wings out of the shadowed morning. The dawn is gentle with you. As you begin your flight and sweep across the light, your night dreams fall from you like a dress falling to gather at the feet of the earth, in a mound of secret colours, of secret shadows and tenderness, where the sunrise does not touch nor dispel regret. You made love in the darkness, giving yourself to its nakedness, where it pinioned and broke you with sweetness, crushed nostalgia in your thighs, speaking to you of birth and births, your voice heard and responded with 1,000 tremors. Nothing could have shaken it more, as sleep gathered you in its dreams and released you like a bird. I have to admit, I only discovered the wonderful and surreal Spanish poet Federico Garcia Lorca when I went to live in Granada in the south of Spain in the 1990s. Lorca, who was murdered during the Spanish Civil War, must have been not just one of the most beautiful poets, but one of the most beautiful people who have ever graced this sorry planet. I loved instantly and continue to love his irresistibly beautiful poems, and now offer 3 of them in my own translation. The first is called I Am So Afraid of Losing the Wonder, a translation of Lorca's Tengo Miedo de Perder la Maravilla, and I will follow that with his lament for the death in the early 1920s of the tragically young Spanish poet José de Soria y Escalante. To begin now with I Am So Afraid of Losing the Wonder. I am so afraid of losing the wonder of your eyes like a statue's, and the accent set on my cheek at night by the solitary rose of your breathing. It hurts me to be on this river's edge, a tree without branches. What hurts me more is to have no flower, pulp or clay for the snail of my suffering. If you are my hidden treasure, if you are my cross and my moist pain, if I am the dog of your domain, do not let me lose what I have gained, but dress the water of your river with the fallen leaves of my estranged autumn. And now on the death of José Echevarría de Escalante. Who will say I saw you and in what moment? Such agony of burning shadow, 2 voices speaking, the clock and the wind, while the morning rises without you. A delirium of ashen nard drowns your sweet head. O friend, passion, anguished light, memento, come back moon and heart of nothing. Come back moon. With my own hand I will throw your apple into the turbid river full of goldfish and summer. And you above, so high, green and cold, forget me and forget the vain world, sweet Giocondo, friend. The last of the translations is of Lorca's Casita del Llanto, the house of grief or lamenting, and I call it lamentation. I have closed the balcony doors to silence grief, yet behind closed doors nothing is heard but grief. Very few angels are singing, very few dogs barking. 1,000 violins lie in the palm of my hand, but grief is an enormous dog, grief is an enormous angel, grief is an enormous violin. Tears muzzle the wind, and nothing is heard but grief. This next poem is called Taurus, as in the star sign. Taurus. Little bull has no horns, little bull. Time has slipped you from its hull of dreams and swept you on to further stars and fiercer hearts than ours could be. Little bull, sleeping bull, or dreaming. The little bull is dead, and as with each death, the universe is emptied a little more. Life does not know what it has missed, and will not miss what it has never known. Safe in our dreams, we see the dead. Shadows, the next poem, is another poem inspired by observing someone completing an action. In this case, a blonde-haired man having his photograph taken, leaning against a cherry tree in Dublin, Ireland. I don't think I ever knew who he was, but I used to see him in Dublin, and even saw him at poetry readings, reading his own poetry. And I can still see him in my mind's eye, very clearly at the moment of this photograph. I suppose the less you know about a scene, the more material it offers for transformation into poetry. This is called Shadows. The shadows have come to the trees, resting in the arms of the cherry, translating a dusty memograph years hence, through the lens of a camera, for a moment proud of who he is as the shutter snaps. A name is cut in the skin of this one, the same one as he sits on. Angela, growing black with age, like a fingered, blackened prayer. Who was she, and to whom, scribing an anguished flesh in bark, was she speechless love? If I were he, I would have wrote, in the spring I will bear you flowers. One of the poets to first fire my interest in poetry was John Keats, the early 19th century English romantic poet. As a teenager, I had to read Keats in school, but I immediately loved and continue to love his atmospheric, brooding, haunting poem, La Belle Dame sans Merci, the beautiful woman without mercy. And this is it. Oh, what can ail thee, night at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, night at arms, so haggard and so woebegone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest is done. I see a lily on thy brow with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withered too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a faery's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant sewn. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I sat her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses four, and there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci hath thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake and no birds sing. Well, I'm now very much in the middle cycle of the reading, and I will continue with a series of unfortunately gloomy love poems, beginning with this one called One World, One Time. We have only one world and one time where the universe has placed us, face to face, intending us to embrace. There will be no other worlds, no other times, among all the times and worlds to come for us or for our embraces. You know there is only here, only now, only here, only now. Among all the worlds and times that have come or will come, there is only here, only now. Forever or never, forever or never. We had only one bright, golden, exalted moment only. Before the shadows fell, before the shadows fell, before the petals fell, chalice fell, the gorgeous chalice of your flower fell. This is called Song for Camellia. Camellia, you are what they say you are, Camellia. A flowering joy when you hold your lover in the chalice of your eyes, your arms, your hands and your thighs. But you are too what they say you are, Camellia. A flowering wound when you let your chalice fall. You are what they say you are, Camellia. Flowering joy and flowering wound both in the bright, golden, shadowed path of the eternal. This next poem is called One Heart, Two Women. I gave my heart to two women. One blessed me with a crown of gold and gilded garments to behold, a sceptre with globe of gold, and sandaled feet she oiled and kissed, and proffered me bliss, bright stars upon my eyes and lips. Upon the sky of heaven made me a bed to lie on. The other planted in my mouth seeds of pain and seeds of doubt, in my heart stars of separation, in my soul stars of desolation. She made me eloquent with love's fire, but made me dumb to end desire. Upon the black universe hung shrouds of emptiness. I gave my heart to two women, divided for both to hold. One placed it in a box of gold to save from ruin. One gave it to the crested owl to carry to the crested moon, where it hangs upon a dead branch. Nada, the Spanish word for nothing, is a poem I wrote in Spanish. I'm reading it here in Spanish and I offer no translation. For those who do not understand Spanish, I am sorry. For those of you who do, I hope you will enjoy my Spanish poem. Nada. Nada soy, nada sentí, que no te olvido nada. Pasan las tardes, pasan los inviernos, pasan los soles, pasan los pájaros de todos los sueños salvajes que vuelan por tus paisajes. Pasan los mundos, pasan los tiempos, todo se desvanece por el sur de todos los futuros. Pasan los futuros, los planetas, estrellas, universos. Pasan, pasan, todo desaparece con la gracia de una mujer vestida de negro. Una tarde de invierno, tanta belleza que asombra la luz. Pasan mujeres, sombras, pasan las luces. Todo se pierde por el sur de todos los amores. Pasan los amores, los besos, bellos como flores. Pasan los labios que saben abrir todos los tesoros hundidos en los cuerpos perdidos de amantes encendidos. Pasan los tesoros, pasan, 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 todos pasan, 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 alegrías, tristezas, fantasmas. ¿Qué hacer con la memoria? ¿Qué recordar? ¿Qué no olvidar? Ya lo sabes que ya he pasado todo y nada soy sin ti, nada soy, y no te olvido nada, no te olvido, nada soy, y no te olvido nada. I will read now the second and last of the two prose pieces I have included in this reading. San Carlos Beach actually exists in Monterey, California, very near to Cannery Row. This short piece was actually a kind of journal or diary note I made to myself after waking one sun-bright morning some years ago to the sound of seals in the harbour there, which made me recall a past experience on a beach on an island off the southwest coast of Ireland, where there were also seals. And I just called this short prose piece San Carlos Beach. I waked to the rough sound of seals barking. Beyond the curtained darkness of the room, I can sense the strong midwinter sunlight upon the beach. Half sleeping, half dreaming, I recall the beautifully sweeping golden beach of the great Blasket Island, August a few summers ago, the air bright and warm with sun, when I touched the honeyed heart of the world. Watched by seals in the Atlantic, quietly observant this time. But here beyond my room it is the Pacific, and San Carlos Beach is just yards away, and it is cold and empty in the early December morning, hardly broad or long enough to support a memory on the other side of the world, on the other side of time, of one blissful day. This next poem, called Journey into Darkness, signals the start of the last cycle of poems with, yes, certainly a movement towards dark reflections, but where there is still, I hope, some music and dance. and even some brightness to be found. Journey into darkness. The sun toiled over our days of dreams, and we had no respite from our fears of falling. But when the sun fell, it released us for our journey, and we were happy to enter darkness. We had to wait till night for the stars to shine on us. The next poem I wish to dedicate to the Santa Catalina Island, California-born singer-songwriter Tom Moore, who has lived in Ireland for many decades and who has made a very significant contribution to the Irish folk ballad tradition. Living in Dublin, I encountered and admired Tom greatly. This poem really emerged from that encounter and uses indeed a phrase or two from his extraordinary songs, which would be familiar to anybody who knows them well. This is called The Journey, and after it comes a series of poems very much connected and related to each other. The Journey for singer-songwriter Tom Moore. On his journey, wave upon wave held him from breaking in the heart of oceans. He held his fading stars, even as the heavens crushed the timber of his dreams to a residue of dust. Live life, the waters sang from the depths of a drowning world. Live life, still believing, soldier on. There was time and no time, all and nothing to be done. All the bad things had been said, all the good songs had been sung. A birth, each breath of ocean, a death, each sigh of star. The universe, a woman, torn between peace and war. Love, life, the winds sang over the darkness of a dying world. Love, life, still believing, journey on. It was the beginning and the end. The lights flickering in harbour called the sailor to his bed. Her arms reached out to embrace the ship of the living, the ship of the dead. He sang to each, "O planets, sing me, music, dance and harmony. O planets, melodiously, one more song for Mother." This poem is called The Dance with Mother. A battle dream, soldier on, earth and heaven nearly won. Earth's song, journey song, swan song, the earth's desire for heaven. All the bad things have been done, all the good songs have been sung. The dance with Mother just begun. The dance with Mother just begun. All the good songs have been sung, all the bad things have been done. The battle is over, the war is won. The earth in love with heaven, the right seed in the right season. And the dance with Mother, the dance with Mother, the dance with Mother just begun. A poem called Symphony. For the evening she dressed in a symphony of sunsets. Her hair stole fire from the downfall of stars. Planets and comets made lace for her breasts. Her thighs pooled rich harmonies of Venus and Mars. Her heavens lay swept with the silk of solar rains, her universe torn with infinite birth pains, all desire subdued with a traitor's kiss, the body of the female in the hands of the archaeologist. Burning away the palace of starry sky, digging in the flesh of the universal lie, revealing the nothing earth has wed, a scattering of bones in the caves of the dead. This poem is Swan Song of the Stars. The stars sing in darkness, haven't you heard their swan song? Nature torn, love forsworn, the universe a battlefield, no more. Is there still a pity to be won? Still some good song to be sung? This broken dream, this silence of all hope, where money and metal, darkness and ritual have engineered the violation of all heaven. Is there still a mother we can pray to? Mother, mother, I still love you. The stars journey home. Death is our mother and has shed us like stars from the womb of darkness. We will return to her, not because we do not love life, but because we cannot live without her. There is only one law to calm our desire. In skies of deepest blue, be bright one moment, then expire. Our lives are briefest fire. while she is lovely forever. She has always been kind to us and will welcome us with a kiss when we return from exile, with the map of the universe in our hearts for her. Death is our mother. Thanksgiving is my most recent poem, and I wrote it especially for this Thanksgiving Day reading here in Chicago. I finished it so recently that I'm not actually sure if it is finished or not. It is perhaps not what you might expect from a Thanksgiving poem, but then when you begin to write a poem on a theme, sometimes what emerges can be a little surprising, if not unsettling. Here it is, Thanksgiving. And so you remember where your world began, where the blessed path of gold ran, light running over water through strewn geographies no one had yet seen or dreamed, all the future landscape of your precious unimagined. Yours was a small town, you and the white dog you loved, running where the canal brought you, on the edge of town, a deserted and enclosed scrubland, naked to the eye, your white flesh running, half mad, holy, sad. You endured your hopelessness until heaven gave you to undress, a woman of pure gold, whose flesh was gold, whose hair was gold, whose heart was gold. And you drank her gold. That is your story. For 20 years you were glad, though your nature was sad. The rest you muddled through, wanting to be true, chasing exaltation across all the realm of the impossible and the unattainable, the what could never be, the has not been, never to be, knowing it should all have been so much more. If only you had had your chance to dance, before your song was sung and done, you dance. No use now to remember how she struck you cold, with that flower in her bare mouth, while you were heading south, the girl from the North Country. And here you come again now with your old music, full of regret and weeping, full of desire and seeking some new kind of Thanksgiving. And as it was before, so it is now. Nothing new has come to you. Asking yourself, as before, what more? What more did you want from life than a woman to smile upon you and an exit door to leave through? And don't you have that now? And so be thankful. The late Victorian poet Thomas Hardy's Lioness is another poem I was made to read in school, but which I loved immediately and still love and feel a strong personal connection to. It is a magical poem about a journey, or a poem about a magical journey. As someone whose life has become one of journeys, I feel a special affinity with this poem and always have done so. Wouldn't it be great if every journey could be like this one to Lioness? When I set out for Lioness 100 miles away, the Rhine was on display and starlight lit my lonesomeness. When I set out for Lioness 100 miles away, what would be chance at Lioness while I should sojourn there? No prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard guess, what would be chance at Lioness while I should sojourn there? When I came back from Lioness with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surmise, my radiance rare and fathomless, when I came back from Lioness with magic in my eyes. And now, as we approach the end of this reading live from Chicago on Thanksgiving Day, another translation of a Federico Garcia Lorca poem. Lorca's poem is called Despedida, and I have translated it as farewell. If I die, leave the balcony doors open. A young boy is eating oranges. From the balcony I see him. The reaper is cutting the wheat. From the balcony I hear him. If I die, leave the balcony doors open. I now wish to close the protecting circle I have made of these poems from the Birth and Death of Angels collection on the Ireland Stories website by rereading the poem I began with, Le Chercheur d'Or, the seeker or searcher for gold. I wish I could see the Argo again and hear Jason's voice as he strained above the sacred timber that carried us to our goal. That treasure stored in memory, how we sailed from Thessaly, seeking a land of golden corn beyond the sun-reflecting sea. How well I remember the gilded prow upon the ocean's gilded brow, and the siren's chant only Orpheus could enchant to keep us to our quest, and all those dreams we loved the best. Following the flight of the daring dove into the harbour at Colchis. We all followed the things we loved. Some led to riches and some to loneliness. Jason had his journey and I had mine. He had the light of Aries to guide him and his art. I had the constellation of the heart. And when I reached a place where the fleece was, I saw a woman with red hair standing at the gates of heaven. This 2016 Thanksgiving reading from downtown Chicago is really done now, but I've decided almost at the last moment to conclude with a last hooray or grand finale, a poem I wrote in French called Ballade Solitaire, solitary or lonesome ballad perhaps. Again, I'm sorry not to offer translation, but hope any French speakers will understand and enjoy the poem. Even if you do not understand French, you may pick out echoes, I believe, of the Rimbaud poem, O Seasons, O Castles, at the start of the reading. Here then is Ballade Solitaire. J'étais celui que la vie avait fui, moi et mes rêves qu'elle avait détruits. Je ne pouvais plus suivre ni rêve ni ténèbres, mes jours funestes, mes nuits funèbres. Le temps n'était pas fait pour mes regrets. Je n'étais que chanson abandonnée. Je trouvais à vrai dire l'oiseau beau. Il était devant ma vie, fier flambeau. Il n'était en rien étrange, bien qu'il dérange. J'aurais aimé tout dissoudre sans vicissitude. J'aurais aimé de la compagnie bien humaine, bien rude. Mais personne ne voulait parler à l'ancien marinier, là où la rivière touche enfin à la mer.